I became a disciple of great Buddhist monk of Jogye order of Korean Buddhism, who was called as a Buddha and an ascetic. After becoming a monk, I saw that the temple was doing Chindoji soul release ceremony every morning and afternoon. My purpose of becoming a monk was to meet an enlightened one, learn the enlightenment, attain the Buddhahood and save all living beings. But in the temple, there were Chindojis every day. The Chindojis were usually held twice a day. I took the role of chanting the name of Buddha when the Chindoji was performed. I couldn't see the souls and also didn't know where these souls were going. At that time, all Buddhist believers and monks would go to the great Buddhist monk when they wanted to do the Chindojis. They would offer money to the great Buddhist monk and requested, "Please do the Chindo ceremony for our ancestors, Buddha." I didn't know the way to release the souls. Regarding the great monk as a Buddha and an ascetic, I thought that the great monk would reincarnate these souls. I just sat in the sermon hall and chanted the Buddha's name, praying the souls can be sent to the good places. I attend the Chindo ceremonies every day. One day, I was informed that her father had passed away, so I took 2,000,001 to the great monk and asked the great monk to reincarnate my father. I said to the great monk, "My father passed away, please send him to a good places." Hearing my words, the great monk replied to me with a big laugh, "Your father is riding a flower carriage and going up to the heaven." Since I became a disciple of great Buddhist monk of Jogye order of Korean Buddhism, who was called as a Buddha and an ascetic, I thought, Buddha says that my father is going up to the heaven. The enlightened Buddha can send the soul to the heaven with a thought, how great the Buddha is. Thinking that, I was proud of being a monk. I was moved to tears. Even though I had a hard time living this rough life, I felt really happy when I heard my parents went to the paradise because of my virtuous deeds. However, as I slept at night, I saw my father in my dreams. The great monk who was called as a Buddha and an ascetic said my father was riding a flower carriage and going up to the heaven, but whenever I dreamed about my father, my body was paralyzed. I felt strange and told this to the great monk. Then the great monk said to me like this, "Your father is in the hell, he is coming out of hell, so do Chindo ceremony." At that moment, I thought, what is she talking about? Why is my father in hell? She said my father went to the paradise. However, since it is said that the great monk was a Buddha, I followed the command of my teacher the great monk. I did Chindo ceremony again, and I also offer money to the great monk who is called as a Buddha. I'd appreciate it if you could do the Chindo ceremony well for my father. And then I came down and did the Chindo ceremony. I did Chindo ceremonies for the Buddhist believers every morning and afternoon. During the Chindo ceremonies, I just sat in the sermon hall and chanted the Buddha's name, because I was not enlightened, and I believed that my teacher was an enlightened Buddha. I just chanted the Buddha's name and prayed for the souls with my heart. I chanted sincerely. Even after so many years, the believers kept doing the Chindo ceremonies. Shouldn't the souls of the believers' ancestors be reincarnated if the great monk did Chindo ceremonies for them? But the believers kept doing the Chindo ceremonies. What they did is not the different Chindo ceremonies. They did the same Chindo ceremonies. They did the same Chindo ceremonies for their ancestors. And they did the same Chindo ceremonies for their husbands' ancestors. They did the same Chindo ceremonies several times a year. I thought it was strange because the believers were doing the same Chindo ceremonies for several years. The believers spend several million won to do the Chindo ceremonies each time. I wondered why they did the endless Chindo ceremonies every year, but if the believers lives in harmony, thought they have come and done Chindo ceremonies. When they came and did the Chindo ceremonies, they cried. It was so weird. If the Buddha does the Chindo release the souls, it will only be once. Why would these believers do the Chindo ceremonies so many times every year? Where is the end of this Chindoji? When will it end? I hope all the Chindo ceremonies are over. I hope I can learn the enlightened Buddhism from the great monk, who is named as a Buddha and an ascetic, attain the Buddhahood and teach the enlightened Buddhism to the sentient beings. Instead of learning about the enlightened Buddhism, I attended the Chindo ceremonies twice a day, and sometimes I had to attend the Chindo ceremonies 3 times a day. It was so weird. 10 years passed and my body became diseased and crippled gradually, and at the same time, my younger sister, who was also a monk, was standing at the crossroads of life and death and had the same symptom of my mother, who had passed away. I did my best in following the Buddha's teaching, and I was very curious why I and my younger sister went through these things. Again, she went up to the great monk named Buddha. I said to the great monk that I was sick to death, and the great monk asked her to do another Chindoji. She told me, then you will recover your health. Since the great monk said like that, I did another Chindoji with several tens of millions of won that my family sent to me. I also offer 3 million won to the great monk, but the Chindo ceremony didn't work at all. I can't die, and I can't go back to my family because I was a monk. So I did another Chindo ceremony, offering several million won to the great monk, but it didn't work at all. It was so weird, but because I was about to die, I went to the Greek monk and asked the reason again. The great monk asked me to build a Yongtap stone pagoda for souls for ancestors to be rebirthed into the good places, and for the descendants to succeed. The stone pagoda for souls costed 12 million won. As a monk, I couldn't find a job to make money. I had done Chindo ceremonies twice a year. It felt like my bone marrow was falling out. I contacted my family, and my family sent me the money. I bought the stone pagoda at a low price. Interestingly, after the Chindo ceremonies, the monks built my ancestral tablet on the stone pagoda. I didn't know that it didn't make sense at that time, because it was the words of the great monk who was really famous in the Jogi order of Korean Buddhism. I had to follow her words, but there was nothing good. What's more, my body was thoroughly deteriorating. I was lying down in my room and waiting for the day to die. I was curious about the reason why my younger sister and I went through this kind of things, although I practiced honestly as the Buddha said. One day, when I was too sick to get up and was lying down in my room, a senior fellow apprentice came to me and said, "Why are you eating the Buddha's meal at the temple when you are sick?" He added, "Don't eat Buddha's meal for free, and go to your home right away." He told me to go back to my home. At that time, I was so dumbfounded that I couldn't speak. I heard a saying when I became a monk: Buddha's teacher has a greater connection than a monk's mother and father. If a monk's mother and father have 500 years of relationship in his or her past life, there is a very deep relationship with the Buddhist teacher. It is more than 1,000 years of relationship between the monk and his or her Buddhist teacher. I considered the Buddha as my parents and continued the harsh asceticism, but since I was sick and couldn't work, the senior fellow apprentice, who had practiced together for 10 years, told me to leave. The senior fellow apprentice never asked me like, "What's wrong with you? What can I help you to get better?" They said to me, "You are sick and you can't work, so go out right away. You will be in big trouble if you eat the Buddha's meal for free. Go out right now. You are not even able to work. Why are you wasting Buddha's rice at the temple?" I said to him, "Have I been sick since I first became a monk? I worked so hard since I became a monk. Eventually, I become sick. But at work, if an employee is sick, the company would pay for the treatment and grant sick leave. How can the disciples of Buddha, who is merciful, say such a ridiculous word? Am a disciple of Buddha, I am not a disciple of you. The only person who can ask me to leave is Shakyamuni Buddha. You are also a disciple of Shakyamuni Buddha and also eat the rice of Shakyamuni Buddha, so you don't have any authority to tell me go out. If Shakyamuni Buddha says to me like, 'Hai Wu, you can't work anymore, so you don't waste the rice of temple and go back to your home immediately.' If the Shakyamuni Buddha talks to me like this, I will go out then. But why are you telling me to go out when you are not even a Buddha? I will never go out. As a monk, I want to get the enlightenment and want to attain the Buddhahood to save the people, so I never go out unless the Buddha tells me to go out. If you tell me to go out again, I will buy oil and spray it on my body at the sermon hall. I left my family and become a monk because I believe in Buddha. I never go back to my family. I won't go out unless the Buddha tells me to go out. I will surely recover my health and return the favor of eating the Buddha's meal, so you don't tell me to go out. I came back to my room, shedding tears of blood. I wailed in my room, "Are monks this scary? Are monks this ungrateful and unmerciful?" I spent 10 years with them in this temple. We lived together and ate together. How could you say this? You are not even a human, and the monks were telling me to go out again. Why do you have to crave Buddha's meal? Get out now. That's what the colleague monk was saying. I was astonished. We had practiced together for 10 years. We learned together, and we ate together. If the colleague monk is sick, shouldn't they ask like, "Are you feeling very sick? Even if I don't have money, please buy some delicious food with this. Recover your health and get better by getting treatment." So I replied to him, "I want you to know that Shakyamuni Buddha personally came to me when I was attending Sangha University, and gave me the certification that proves me as a monk of Jogye Order of Korean Buddhism. You have received the certification of Buddhist initiation from the monks? I received the certification of Buddhist initiation from Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha proved that I can have a duty at any temple across the country. If I am sick, I can be paid for the treatment. I am a real child of the Shakyamuni Buddha who received the certification of becoming a disciple of Buddha from the Shakyamuni Buddha. Your certification is fake because you got a certificate from the monks. I received the certificate from the Buddha, so I'm real child of the Buddha. I am the eldest son in the Buddhist temple and you are a servant. How can you ask the owner so to go out? You are the one who should go out. Buddha is the master of this temple, and I am the eldest son of the Buddha. Does the owner's son ever leave the house? You go out, servant." One time, I was so sick that I was lying down. A senior monk came to me and called me a crazy bitch. "You are not working and eat the food for free, why aren't you going home?" He said to me like that. In the temple, the senior monks are authoritative. If a senior monk says something, we have to say yes, we can never say anything else. So I said like this, "This is not right, I am not taking a break on purpose. I worked hard before I got sick. I woke up at 3 a.m. and worked until 11 p.m. I worked without a break. I can't work because I'm sick. It's not that I don't work for any other reason. How can you call me a crazy bitch? Are you sure you become a monk to save people?" I replied to him like that. Again he called me crazy bitch. So we fought in the hallway. I can't stand it anymore. No matter how crippled I am, there is no reason for me to allow you to call me as a crazy bitch. After saying this, we had a physical fight. Then, all monks came out from their rooms and stopped us, saying, "Why does Haewoon, who has a younger Buddhist age, defy her elder?" So I answered, "I admit that he is older than me, but he calls me crazy. Is this what a monk has to say? If a younger monk who has been living with for decades is sick, shouldn't he give some money to the sick monk and let the monk add it to the cost of medical treatment? But he never cares about me and calls me a crazy bitch. He swears me that I don't work and eat free meals. Am I taking a break on purpose? I can't work because I'm sick. How can a Buddhist monk say like this?" Hearing my words, the elder monk left right away. One time, I crawled all the way to the sermon hall. I was praying to the Shakyamuni Buddha. Then an elder monk came to me and saying, "What the point of doing this while you are sick? Why don't you go home?" He made a fuss again. "But if I lose to the monk, shouldn't I be kicked out of the temple? So I can't lose." I said, "I can't go out. I will definitely recover and repay the favor of the Buddha's meal. I'm going to get the enlightenment and promote the Buddhism. And then there was another struggle in the sermon hall. I had no choice but to beat him with a cane I had, so he left me behind and went down. Since then, no one dared pick a quarrel with me. I couldn't go to have a meal because the monks kept asking her to leave the temple. After 9 p.m. when the monks were sleeping, I went to the patron, put cold rice in the stainless bowl, put 1 kimchi in it, brought it into her room, ate half, and put the stainless bowl on the windowsill. In summer, when I tried to eat the remaining rice in the morning, the rice went bad. However, if I didn't eat the rice, I would die, and if I went out to have a meal in the temple, the monks would oppress me. I was forced to eat the spoiled food. I broke into tears when I ate a spoonful of the spoiled rice. I worked hard and practiced honestly according to the Buddha's teaching, but why do I become so miserable? My eyes teared up, thinking that I was in such a situation that I had to eat this kind of spoiled rice to preserve life. I ate the rice with tears in my eyes. I pledged that she would surely regain my health and return the Shakyamuni Buddha's favor of providing her with free meals. I pledged that I would get the enlightenment and promote the Buddhism to the world. Even though I was sick, I pledged to Shakyamuni Buddha that I would be enlightened and risk my life to promote the Buddhism to the whole world. In winter, the rice that was brought outside the window is frozen. It's a cold meal when I put it in the evening. It's okay when I eat a cold meal. In the morning, the rice brought outside the window was frozen. When I took a spoonful of it to eat in the morning, frozen rice rolls around in my mouth. I was tearing up while I was chewing the rice. I wailed, I cried while chewing the frozen rice. I should risk my life to practice and get the enlightenment to promote the Buddhism. I woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning and worked until 11 p.m. I've never had a break, but when I got sick, people told me to leave. When I ate that frozen meal, I shed tears of blood. I cried and swear I will make sure to get better and enlighten the Buddha's Dharma. I will promote the Buddhism. I love the Buddha's Dharma to that extent. Prior to becoming a monk, I acquired the state of nirvana that the Shakyamuni Buddha had said about. I knew well about the state of nirvana. The monks are giving lectures on Buddhist scriptures like the Avatamsaka Sutra. Those monks, the 84,000 dharmas, they don't even know the state of nirvana. They didn't know what nirvana was, but they were giving a lecture on the Buddhist scripture. Those people can't even chase me on my toes. I was guided by the Shakyamuni Buddha, and after 3 months of learning the Buddha's teaching, I acquired the state of nirvana. In fact, I lived in the state of nirvana, so I realized that what the Shakyamuni Buddha had said was true. Therefore, no matter how ill in the face of death, I did not back off. I made a vow in front of the Shakyamuni Buddha that after regaining my health, I will enlighten the Buddha's teaching and spread the Buddha's teaching to the living beings. I am a person who acquired the truth, so I will never go back to my family, and I will never step back. I made up my mind that I would enlighten the Buddha's Dharma and repay the Buddha's favor. I risked all my last life to practice for the last time. I practiced as the Buddha said, but I got sick and I was lying down with a disability. I thought there must be a problem with this Buddhism. If there is not a problem, I can't become crippled nor be on the verge of death. There must be a problem with the Buddhism. I prayed hard to the Shakyamuni Buddha that I could enlighten the right Buddhism and lead the sentient beings to the right way. While I was studying Buddhism, I found the Buddhism was so strange. The scripture book was gathered 500 years after the death of Shakyamuni Buddha. It was ambiguous and illogical, and if I started to learn the scripture books in the spring semester, I couldn't get the answer until the end of the winter semester. There is no answer. The same sentence is repeated. It's like that there is, and also it's like that there isn't. It's just like wordplays. Say weird thing like the main character is in me, the Buddha is in me. Some people say that the main character is in me, and the Buddha is in me. Why should I calling Shakyamuni Buddha and looking for Kshitigarbha Bodhisattva, thinking that it's been so long since the Shakyamuni Buddha passed away and the present Buddhism was not from the words of Shakyamuni but the words of monks. I said to Shakyamuni Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, I was guided by you and became a monk. I practiced hard and honestly according to the Buddha's teaching, but I become ill and is on the verge of the death. There must be something wrong with this Buddhism. Please give me the enlightenment. I desperately wanted to know the enlightened Dharma of Shakyamuni Buddha, so I said like this, Shakyamuni Buddha, although it's been 2,600 years since you passed away, please come back to the Sabal world with your body and teach me the enlightened sermons with your voice. Now is the era of decline of the illustrious doctrine. There is no Buddhism spoken by the Shakyamuni Buddha, and it is difficult for people to learn the enlightened Buddhism spoken by Shakyamuni Buddha. I would like to hear the original enlightened Buddhism spoken by Shakyamuni Buddha. Please come back to the Sabal world and teach me the enlightened Buddhism. And I went to my teacher Great Monk and said, Great Monk, I am so sick and I can't use my body at all. I need to go to the hospital and get surgery. If I get the surgery and recover my health, I will definitely repay your kindness, so please give me some surgery fees. Then, the great monk named an ascetic said to me like this, I asked for the cost of surgery, promising that if I regained my health, I would promote the Buddhism as repaying kindness. When I told the great monk like this, I heard a very shocking thing. The great monk said like this, she said she shouldn't pay for the treatment. Why? The great monk rejected the offer, saying that it would be a bad precedent to pay for the operation fee because the great monk gave money for the cost of surgery. Other monks, who were sick, would come to the great monk and ask the great monk to pay for the operation fee. The great monk said it would be a bad precedent to give one disciple the money for the operation expenses, so she shouldn't pay for the treatment. I was surprised. Were these the words that a person who was named a Buddha should say? Did Shakyamuni Buddha do this to his sick disciples? Shakyamuni Buddha is a benevolent person. This monk claimed that she was an enlightened Buddha. She owned such a big temple. She had a lot of money, but when her disciple, who had served for more than 10 years, was sick, she rejected to pay for the fee of the treatment, saying it would be a bad precedent to pay for the operation fee. I doubted my ears when I heard that great monk shouldn't pay for the operation fee because other monks would also come to ask for the fee of treatment. I laughed, it was so ridiculous, so I laughed loudly. You are named as a Buddha and called as a great monk. You have a lot of believers and own such a big temple. You lavish money on your children, but you grudge money going to your disciples. That's why the monk shouldn't have children. This is why if a monk have children, he or she can't save people. While thinking like this, I held the stairs next to me with my hand and went down the stairs. I laughed because I was dumbfounded. I had no one to trust but Shakyamuni Buddha. I vowed to the Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha speaks only truthful words, does not lie, and is an honest man. I want Shakyamuni Buddha to come back to the Sabal world and teach me the enlightened Buddhism. I will certainly become healthy and enlighten the Shakyamuni Buddha's Buddhism and spread the Buddhism to all living beings. Then, surprisingly, the Shakyamuni Buddha guided me to the Maitreya Buddha. I visited the Maitreya Buddha, and the Maitreya Buddha saw I was so sick, saying what you have done is kind of a fool's errand. That's no good. If I do the Chendoji for your ancestor, you and your younger sister will be well. I was so surprised. I told the Maitreya Buddha. During that time, I did Chendoji once or twice a year. Every time I did the Chendoji, I gave several million won to the great monk as the recompense. Not only this, but I also built the Yongtap Pagoda for souls. Even though I had done all of this, my health deteriorated. I am on the verge of the death. After hearing that, Maitreya Buddha said my ancestors were not released at all. I was immensely shocked. It was weird for me to do the Chindoji once or twice a year for 10 years. So I asked Maitreya Buddha, can you do Chindo for my ancestors? Then Maitreya Buddha answered me, I can do Chindo for you. That's easy. So I earnestly raised the request like this: please release my ancestors. I have done Chindoji once or twice a year at our temple for many decades. I also built the Yongtap pagoda for souls for my ancestors. Every time I did the Chindoji, I gave several million won to the great monk as the recompense. Even though I did that, the Chindo was not successful. The great monk in our temple was very famous in the Jogi order of Korean Buddhism. Even the great monk couldn't release my parents. Then where I can go to do the Chindoji for my ancestors and my parents? There is no place to go. So I earnestly made a request to Maitreya Buddha like this: please release my ancestors. Maitreya Buddha released the souls of my ancestors on the spot. Then I realized that those Chindo ceremonies I did once or twice a year, and the Chindo ceremonies I attended for the Buddhist believers were all not successful. The Chindoji that was done by Yongpo Maitreya Buddha was completely different from the Chindojis I have been doing so far. I could immediately see that the souls were released from the spot. I found that my health got better in the evening. My body is getting better because my ancestors are released. The reason why I was so sick and on the verge of the death is that my ancestors were not released. This is what I learned on the spot after the Chindoji performed by Yongpo Maitreya Buddha. Realizing that the souls of the believers' ancestors were not released through the Chindoji performed in the temple, I was so heartbroken. I made up my mind, I have to let all of the Buddhists know that Maitreya Buddha has come to the Sabal world, and let the ancestors of the believers be released through the Chindoji done by the Maitreya Buddha. Before I attended the Chindo ceremonies for the believers, I didn't know whether the souls were there or not, and where the souls went after the Chindo ceremonies. I don't have the ability to release the souls. The reason why I attended the Chindo ceremonies was that I believed the great monk was a Buddha and an ascetic. I believed that the great monk could release the souls with a thought. I just thought that even though I can't release the souls, my teacher the great monk can release the souls. So I just chant the name of Buddha. But now I started to feel sorry for the act of chanting Buddha's name at Chindo ceremonies. I felt sorry for the believers and I felt guilty for what I did. I had a very heavy heart. I told the believers and the senior fellow apprentice about the Maitreya Buddha, explaining that through the Chindojis that had been performed so far, there was no soul who had been released. I told them Yongpo Maitreya Buddha could release the souls in a moment, and I also said to them that they should do the Chindo ceremony for their ancestors, which was performed by Yongpo Maitreya Buddha. Those believers all knew that their ancestors were released immediately. A believer said that the soul of her elder sister, who was attached to her and always talking to her, was disappeared just after Yongpo Maitreya Buddha released her elder sister, and a believer said the soul of her father was attached to her and talked to her. I also saw that the believer talked to herself. So I said, you are possessed by a ghost. You should ask Yongpo Maitreya Buddha for the Chindo. Then the believer asked Yongpo Maitreya Buddha to do the Chindo. After the Chindo was done, the believer knew it on the spot. When Yongpo Maitreya Buddha said, the Chindo is done, the believer said, I know. Yongpo Maitreya Buddha asked, how do you know? Then the believer said, my father who attached to me and was always talking to me has gone. The believer said that she had done a lot of Chindo ceremonies performed by the great monk, but even though that, the ghost of her father was still talking to her. But now after the Chindo ceremony performed by Yongpo Maitreya Buddha, the ghost of her father was disappeared. I led the believers I knew to the Maitreya Buddha and let them do the Chindojis for their ancestors. Those believers all knew that their ancestors were released immediately, and some of the believers had seen that the souls were released with their own eyes. I thought such an amazing Maitreya Buddha is here. As a monk, I gave up everything, and I sacrificed my life to practice. Even if that, my ancestors were not released, and I was on the verge of the death, How hard is it to live for the Buddhists who are not monks and make money to live their lives? I couldn't stand it because it reminded me of Buddhists. I guided the Buddhists I knew to Yonghui Maitreya Buddha, and I also told the senior fellow apprentice that, monks, Chindo can be done at once if it is done by the enlightened Buddha, but why are you doing the Chindo ceremonies for decades? It don't make sense. Don't you know it doesn't make sense? The monks replied to me, this is what the great monk said. She said we need to do the Chindo ceremony until we die, and when we die, we should pass it on to our descendants. This is what the Buddha says, so we have to listen to it. While saying this, the monks continue to do Chindo ceremonies. They keep doing it once a year, so I asked the monks, no matter how important the Buddha's words, it is wrong. If she is a Buddha, she can release the souls through just a Chindo ceremony. But why do you keep doing the Chindo ceremonies? You keep doing because the souls of your ancestors are not released, right? If she great monk is an enlightened Buddha, she can release the souls through only once Chindo ceremony. Why should you do the Chindo ceremonies every year until you die? It doesn't make sense, does it? Isn't something weird? Then the monk said to me, don't say that. This is what the Buddha said, so we have to listen. Seeing those senior fellow apprentice who followed the great monk's words, even if it didn't make sense, I found it difficult to enlighten those senior fellow apprentice, and the believers also didn't believe me and snitched on me. The great monk is the Buddha. Why does that monk say that there's another Buddha? And that monk tells us to do the Chindo ceremony performed by another Buddha. That monk is very strange. When I informed the senior fellow apprentices about the Maitreya Buddha, these senior fellow apprentices doubt about the existence of the Maitreya Buddha and talk to the great monk, so it was difficult for me to announce it in the temple, and I ran a blog and announced that the Maitreya Buddha had come to the world. Many people came to visit the Maitreya Buddha and did the Chindoyasthi soul release ceremony. Some of them were promoted twice a year in their companies, and some of them saw the souls went to the Pure Land with their own eyes. Such a precious and wonderful Buddha has come to the Sabal world. I shouldn't let only my mother, my father and my ancestor go to a good place. I am still working hard to promote Maitreya Buddha's Buddhism because I feel guilty about attending the Chindojis for the believers twice in a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon. I promote Maitreya Buddha's Buddhism to lead the ancestors of those believers to Yonghui Maitreya Buddha. I hope the ancestors can go to a good place. I knew that I couldn't do the Chindo. I believed that my teacher, the great monk, was a Buddha and an ascetic. I thought my teacher could do the Chindo, and I just chanted Buddha's name at the Chindo ceremonies. But for the sin of chanting Buddha's name, I am still feeling guilty. That's why I am working hard to promote Maitreya Buddha's Buddhism. But the great monk, who pretended to be a Buddha, died, and after death, the great monk came to me. She came to me 3 times, and since she became a ghost, she knew like a ghost. She came to Yonghui Maitreya Buddha every day and asked Yonghui Maitreya Buddha to release her. When Yonghui Maitreya Buddha asked her, why are you here? The great monk answered, I am here to get the Chindo. In your lifetime, you have boasted that you are a Buddha, and you had been telling lies to your believers that you can do the Chindo releasing souls. Now, why do you come to me to save you? Do you know who I am? When Maitreya Buddha asked her like this, the great monk answered, you are Maitreya Buddha, please release me. She begged Maitreya Buddha, I can't release you because you have sinned a lot. If you want to be released, bring all the money you have. Then great monk put her hand in her pocket like this with an awkward face. Yonghui Maitreya Buddha told me the exact amount of money that the great monk had in her safe. And I was really shocked when a monk who was in the temple said the amount of money which was in the great monk's safe. The amount was the same as the amount that was said by Yonghui Maitreya Buddha. After the great monk passed away, we opened her safe, and there was some amount of money, the same amount of money that Yonghui Maitreya Buddha had said. When the great monk was alive, she said to me. It's a bad precedent if I pay for your treatment. Then if other monks are sick, they will all come to ask for the treatment, so I can't give you money. She was so brazen-faced that she came to me after she died. That's why I told Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha. Even the ancestors of great monk weren't released, so that the great monk held Chindo ceremonies 7 to 8 times a year. It explains that the great monk knew that she couldn't release the souls. That's why she did Chindo ceremonies 7 to 8 times a year. I have seen it for more than 10 years, right? She did so many Chindo ceremonies for her ancestors because she also knew she couldn't release the souls of her ancestors. However, she still pretended to be a Buddha and received money from the believers under the name of Chindo ceremonies. How bad is she? Even though she was my teacher, I would like Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha to send the ancestors of the believers of my temple to a good place, and then I want to release the great monk at last. But even after she died, the great monk didn't know what she had committed. She didn't have the ability to save the souls. However, she received money from her believers for the Chindo ceremonies. She didn't know the sin of making her believers shedding tears of blood. The first place the monk went to after she died was the hell of fire. I could smell the burning when I sat in the sermon hall, but I'm not the only one who smelled it. The people closest to the great monk all smelled it. On the 49th day after the death of the great monk, there was a Chindo ceremony for the great monk, and the soul of great monk come to me when I was lying down in my room. It's useless to chant the Buddha's name during the Chindo ceremony on the 49th day after the death. Only if she comes to me and begs me for help, I may ask Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha to save her. So she came to me. It was very painful every time I was possessed by the soul of the great monk. Each time the Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha removed the soul of the great monk by touching my head, I said, Buddha, I am always possessed by the soul of the great monk. She wants you to release her. It is so painful. Really? Each time Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha removed the soul of the great monk by touching my head, I did this for 49 days. She called herself as a Buddha, an ascetic, and a great monk. There are so many temples all over the country and overseas. Why was she always sticking to me and trying to be released? She knew very well that she couldn't do the Chindo release the souls. Why did she get paid to do the Chindo ceremonies? Why did she receive money even from her disciples? How bad is this person? Even after that, I suffered a lot. When I was writing books, I was possessed by the soul of the great monk, and I dreamed about the great monk all the time. I thought that those souls, who attended the Chindojis performed for the last 10 years in the temple and never be saved, should be saved firstly by the Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha, and then the great monk would be the last one to be saved by the Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha. So I did not ask the Maitreya Buddha a Chindoji for the great monk. However, at some point, it was strange that I was not possessed by the soul of the great anymore. I told Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha the great monk must have a conscience now. I am not possessed these days. Then Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha told me because she lied so much when she was alive that she has now disappeared. I couldn't even say the name of great monk. If I said the name of the great monk, I was possessed by the soul of great monk. Then I got a headache immediately. I ran a fever, and I was possessed. Because she was in the hell, she was attached to me in order to be released. She was bothering me until I asked Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha to release her. However, Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha said the monk has disappeared. Is that real? And I found that I was not possessed by the soul of the great monk even if I kept talking about the great monk. She was really disappeared. Isn't it right to be extinguished if a monk deceives the Buddhists who follow him? What would he do if he is reincarnated? Will he be reborn into this world and deceive the Buddhists again? Will he let the Buddhists shed the tears of blood? All monks all over the country should be alert. If you do the Chindo ceremonies to run your temples even if you know well that you don't have the ability to do Chindo, if you receive money, you should send the souls to a good place. But if the souls remain as souls, and you also get paid for the Chindo ceremonies. You are just lying because you are paid for nothing, right? A monk practices to become a Buddha. If he tells lies, how can he become a Buddha? Especially if a monk lies, it is a greater sin than that of normal Buddhists. If they lie, they will be extinguished after death. Although 2,600 years have passed since the Shakyamuni Buddha passed away, the Shakyamuni Buddha guided me to the Maitreya Buddha. I have seen the light emitted from the body of the Maitreya Buddha. The light was like the sunlight, pouring out of the body of the Maitreya Buddha, and I took thousands of videos of the Buddha's light. There is a mark that the Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha is Maitreya Buddha. Even the staffs of the Buddhist broadcasting station came to verify and promoted Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha to the Buddhist, and let the Buddhist come to Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha and learn the enlightenment. If it is not true, how the Buddhist broadcasting station promotes such a thing? The Buddhist broadcasting station knows that the Maitreya Buddha has come to the Sabal world, but why aren't the sermons on the air? The monks don't let sermons be on the air. Do the monks have any intention of saving the living beings? The monks deceive the Buddhists to earn money by telling lies they can do the Chindojis, through which the souls don't be released, and prevent the Maitreya Buddha's sermons from being broadcast. This is the reality of Buddhism and the true character of the monks. The practitioners' monks should not promote the Buddhism for practitioners' monks. If you are a practitioner, you should at least promote the Buddhism for the benefit of Buddhists. What are you going to do by getting money for the Chindo which you can't even do? Are you happy if you build a huge temple with that money? What's the point of building a huge temple while making Buddhists shed tears of blood? Do you think Shakyamuni Buddha will like it? Monks, Shakyamuni Buddha won't like it. Shakyamuni Buddha is lamenting right now. I didn't do Chindo ceremony release souls because I didn't know what the Chindo is, but 2,600 years later, the monks of Korean Buddhism, which are my disciples, do the Chindo ceremony, telling lies like Shakyamuni Buddha will release the souls. Some of them even tell lies like Shakyamuni Buddha explained the enlightened scriptures to the souls, and the souls get the enlightenment and will be reincarnated. Shakyamuni Buddha is an honest man, so he is lamenting. He lamented so much that he implored Maitreya Buddha to promote the Buddhism. That's why Maitreya Buddha has come to the Sabal world. At first, Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha told me I don't want to promote Buddhism. I just want to write a book and promote the Buddhism when I will come back to this world next time. Because even if Maitreya Buddha has come to the Sabal world and promote the Buddhism, the monks refuse to accept Maitreya Buddha. Monks says he is not Maitreya Buddha. Maitreya Buddha won't come until 5.67 billion years later, so don't believe him. Maitreya Buddha knew that monks would do such things from a young age. That's why Maitreya Buddha haven't promote the Buddhism until he becomes old. Maitreya Buddha told me about how the monks would react when they hear Maitreya Buddha has come to this world. During the 10 years when I promote the Buddhism, I realize that Maitreya Buddha's words are right. Shakyamuni Buddha is lamenting. Please stop selling Shakyamuni Buddha's name and doing Chindo ceremonies. Shakyamuni Buddha didn't know Chindo in his life, so he didn't do Chindo ceremonies. Why do disciples of Shakyamuni Buddha do Chindo ceremonies in the name of Shakyamuni Buddha? Why are monks turning Shakyamuni Buddha into a liar? Shakyamuni Buddha is very lamentable right now because he is an honest man. Shakyamuni Buddha begged earnestly Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha to promote the Buddhism. That's why Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha promote the Buddhism now. Monks are the sentient beings. Why do Buddhists all around the country believe in monks? That's why there is nothing good happening to their families. A temple where the living Buddha resides is the real temple. Anyang Sarizan Yonghwasa Temple is only real temple in the Sabal world where Maitreya Buddha resides. There is no Buddha in those large and good temples all around the country. The Buddha statue in the temple is not a Buddha, right? It is just an illusion. You just think it as a Buddha, but it is not a real Buddha. For example, Your father passed away, and you make a shape of your father and prepare quite a spread. Say to the shape of your father, Father, help yourself. Then will the shape of your father answer, the Buddha statue is not your father. Maitreya Buddha is the real Buddha who has come to the Sabal world. Because Maitreya Buddha is enlightened, he emits light from his body. I can show you everything if you come. Come and check with your eyes. If you come and meet Maitreya Buddha, all the difficult things in your family will be solved. Your wish comes true in an instant. If you study the enlightened sermon taught by Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha, you will attain the Buddhahood. You will go to the Yonghwa world. If you miss this precious opportunity, you won't get such an opportunity. If Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha leaves after he promotes the Buddhism, there is no other Buddha who will come to the Sabal world. Buddhists, try to put the Buddha statues into the fire. Grab a spatula and slap the face of Buddha statues. Test it if you will be punished or not. You won't be punished because the Buddha statue is not a Buddha. Take a wooden spatula this big and hit the Buddha statue in the face. Hit it hard and ask it why it is not fulfilling your wish. You won't be punished. The eyes of Buddha statues all around the nation are not open, so they are not Buddha statues, and also, they are not Buddha. You should throw them away. If you want to believe in the real Buddha, you should come to Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha. Turn to Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha and study the enlightened Buddhism from Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha. There are no Buddhas in temples, but monks tell you to bow to these Buddha statues and pray to the Buddha statues as if there is a Buddha. The monks are just telling lies. It's just a show. Does it make sense if the educated Buddhists who have graduated from college and graduate school are deceived by such a poor lie? Thank you.
The law of all things in the universe, the Gong Thought. The teachings of Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha, the founder of the Gong Thought. An enlightened Buddha emits light from his body and saves living beings with Buddha's enlightened light. The light of the sun that creates all things is Buddha's enlightened light. And only the Buddha's enlightened light of an enlightened Buddha can make humans reincarnate. The Buddha's enlightened light of the living Buddha. That is precisely the Gong Thought. Receiving Shugi means embracing Buddha's enlightened light, that is, the Gong Thought, within my body. After death, there is no samsara, only everything becomes extinct. If you receive Shugi with the Buddha's enlightened light of an enlightened Buddha, you will have eyes that can see the Yonghwa world even after death. Chendo and Shugi are only possible through the Buddha's enlightened light of an enlightened Buddha. Don't receive Chendo after death. Receive Shugi while you are alive. Believe and follow only what you can see, hear, and confirm. The dead cannot arise interdependently, only the living can arise interdependently. Just as gold cannot be made artificially, a Buddha comes as a Buddha from the beginning. And a living being cannot become a Buddha through prayer or Zen meditation. However, those who have received Shugi can receive Buddha's enlightened light and become living Buddhas. All these Gong Thought were created by Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha. Like the sky and the earth, the sea and the mountains, the source of life and creation, the limitless and eternal truth, the Gong Thought. See, hear, and meet Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha's Gong Thought directly every Sunday at Yonghwasa Temple in Surazan Mountain, Annyeong.